Good evening, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting of October 24th, 2013. A couple of different agenda items this evening, but the first agenda item will be dealing with the Park and Recreation Commission and a discussion on revolving fund policy, discussion on advancement of acceptance of gift monies, and overall what their estimates for fiscal 14 are. Thank you. The Park and Rec Chairman, Chris Boland's here, and the Assistant Park Director, Mark Galoni, is here also. Good evening. Gentlemen, do you have a statement to make before we ask some questions, or how do you want to go about this?
I can review the revolving fund items first.
Please, Chris.
So for the fiscal 2000...
You want to pull your chair into the middle, Chris, being a little more comfortable?
Yeah. For fiscal 2013 actuals, we had a excess amount of revolving fund of $51,570.77. And we have, as Park and Rec Commission, we recommended to the Selectmen the approval of the following items to be funded by that amount. The first two items are repair items. One is the irrigation filter for a cost of $3,000, and one is repaired to the shed at Carroll Park, $870.77. So those are two items that are in immediate need of repair, and we can't wait until the next budget process, so we're requesting that money gets used for that right now. The next four items are annual recurring expenses, most of which we in the past have carried as a miscellaneous line item, and we want to further, going forward, break them out and be more specific about what they are. The first one is merchant fees, $4,500. The second one is the porta potties at Carroll Park and at Chickering, and those are $3,500. Printing costs, we print a brochure for Park and Rec programs. That costs estimated $3,000. And then we have registration software with our new registration, which also ties back to the merchant fees. That's what the $4,500 is for. The registration software is $1,700. We have an accrual every year for the tennis courts, to repair the tennis courts. Our estimate for the need for the accrual for this year is $7,000. So that's the next item. And then the final two items before the unreserved balance are two requests that we're making to improve the quality of delivery from Park and Rec. One is office equipment, and that is the amount of $5,050. And then the second one is monies to fund development of new and current programs, and that's an amount of $12,950. And then the final amount is the unreserved balance. We're required to maintain of $10,000, which leaves an excess fund amount of a total of $51,570.77.
Good, thank you, Chris.
Excuse me, Chris, just how much was the Carroll Park shed?
The shed, $870.77.
Thank
And
you.
that's repair, my understanding is that's repairs to the roof, I believe it is, where it's just it's going to be an item we're not going to want to deal with, in the winter, so we'd like to get it repaired.
I also applaud the idea of breaking out that miscellaneous so we know exactly where you're spending the monies.
So is that something new this year, or have you been spending money on that in the past?
We spend money on those items every year. It's just they've been lumped into a miscellaneous category. And as we looked at it this year, we now know what they are on a regular basis. And it's better I think, for us and for you, especially something like merchant fees, which can become a variable cost over time as we put more programs on a credit card program or online reservations. That number is going to change, so we want to make sure you're aware of that as that changes every year. The others are fairly consistent. But it's worth calling out so you understand what the activity is.
No, this is great. Thank you. Appreciate it. I was just wondering if it was new, whether it impacted your operating budget, but not if it's been out of your surplus.
It's been out of surplus before. We're comfortable keeping it out of surplus right now. I think that's okay going forward. Like I said, if the merchant fees over time becomes a significant item, we have to figure out a way to charge that to the programs.
Do you have plans already for new programs?
What I'd like to is actually ask Mark Maloney to just speak for a minute about new programs and some of the ideas that he has.
Great, Mark, please. You can sit there, you don't have to move.
Okay, perfect.
I just want to put Chris on the hot seat, that's all.
So there's a couple areas that, obviously we get to a lot of people right now, but a couple areas we're trying to improve on. One is senior programming. We've been in touch with Council on the Aging, with Janet, and trying to develop programming for them in accordance with Parks and Rec. So that's a big area. We also want to obviously pay attention to what other towns are charging for those programs. And one of the things for us is to develop new programming. We need some funds to start those up. So one of the big ones is senior programming. Another one is middle school programming. Right now, we don't offer a ton for the middle school group. So that's something we're looking at, whether it be Friday nights, offering them a place, supervised place they can come, use the gym, pizza, food, that type of thing. Also, our summer playground program only goes to, doesn't include the middle school group. So trying to offer a summer program for the middle school group. That's another target area that we're looking at, that we can, whether it's traveling, they can go on trips to local areas. So that's another one. And then lastly, community events. A lot of towns in the area have done outdoor movies. That's something we've looked at to try to bring that here for the spring and into the summer. So those are a couple of programs, and that's kind of where we came up with that figure to allocate for those programs.
Good.
Great.
So I have forgotten how to read this schedule, so I just want to ask for some clarification. So,
Before you ask that, you guys have seen the one created here versus the long spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
So just to make sure, so it shows here revenues and then expenses for certain programs. So some of the programs aren't profitable, but some of them are profitable and offset the fees for those. So am I reading this right?
Well, you're reading it right in the way
Okay.
that it's pluses and minuses. However, a lot of what you're seeing here can be explained by timing differences.
Okay,
So it's within the fiscal year, it's in
Okay.
the negative, and another one's in the positive.
okay.
We
So you
have-
don't necessarily see that?
Right, it's not really on an accrual basis where you're
Okay.
looking at the actual period cost. against
Okay,
the period
all right.
revenue.
Because the follow-up question I was going to have, if programs are not profitable, do we look at those and determine, whether or not they're worth offering in the future, because potentially maybe enrollment's lower, but if it's on an accrual, I understand what you're saying.
Well, that's
if
the
it's a timing
effect, but
difference.
your question is still a good one, which is, do we also, as we're trying to add programs, do
Right.
we ever remove programs?
Right.
And we do, we look at that on a regular basis. And as part of the task that Mark has on spending some of the money that we're asking for to develop new programs, we also want to understand which programs we're gonna kind of push aside because they're not really being that active anymore. So I think we need to keep looking at that over time.
Okay.
We don't want to add programs infinitely. However, we believe, based on what this town offers relative to what Mark has seen in other towns and requests that we've had from various interest groups, that we should expand the programs, particularly in the, as Mark mentioned, the seniors, the middle schools, and some of just the community activities. So those are just probably a net cost to the town, which is why we want to fund it this way for a year. And then, but at the same time, we are looking at programs that
Okay.
just aren't making money anymore and thinking about it, we're still doing those.
Okay, but this isn't a good indication
No,
of
it's
that.
not.
Okay.
One of the things is, I've been a liaison to Park and Rec now for a couple of years, and Mark, you knew the town, but I think you're doing an excellent job. You bring a lot of knowledge and energy to the whole town for this particular program. Thank you.
The office equipment line item, the 5,050, does that have anything to do with the work that Dave McTavish is doing with Call Warnick Relative? Oh, here it is.
As a liaison, I get all this stuff.
Was it in our package or no?
No, it's really
Well, they
miscellaneous, like a clock, wall clock,
Right.
things,
These are
file cabinets, things of
These are
that
items we would
nature.
not request of the Carroll Management
Okay,
Committee.
got it, okay. That really is office equipment, per se. And just, again, if I'm reading this correctly, I'm seeing it for the first time, so the tennis court repair line, So I assume that has to do with the decision that was made a couple years ago that all subsequent repairs would be funded through an annual input into an account,
Yes.
which is, and you're adding $7,000 is your recommendation, which is great. I think the
Yes.
capital budget, we talked about 5, so that's wonderful. But why is it for fiscal year 14, why do you expect it to have $12,000 expenses? If you've already repaired it, isn't this for future use?
This
But
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's the timing, I believe, because the repairs that were done just recently were in July. So
that's
that-
out of its own capital budget article.
Yeah, this should be, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's reading correct or if we have it listed correctly. This should be.
This is the accrual account, right?
The accrual, right.
So
this
it shouldn't have any expenses on it until you're ready to spend $25,000 or $30,000.
That's correct, yeah.
So if you could just look into that.
We should look at that,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you. Unless what's being put here is the accrual as an expense, but that's not really the right way to show it.
So, yeah, right.
Well, this is a new schedule, so we can sort of edit it, so it makes it easier for everyone involved.
So this is on a cash basis then?
Yeah,
Okay.
except for the tennis court, which is the one that we are accruing
Right,
for, because
right.
it's a significant item. that we may not-
For some reason, I'm having a really hard time with the schedule.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what's the Carroll School repair
Where do you see
for
that?
fiscal year 14?
Oh, there it is.
Just-
That looks like that's an item we've been carrying, which was to do some improvements. I don't know if it was for the wrestling room or was it for the gym. I have to go back and look at what that was for. Dave's not here,
So the
but
previous, yeah, I know it was allocated in previous
this is a
years.
previous allocation that we're still carrying forward.
I see, okay, got it.
But it's a good question as it relates to Carroll management. Is that something that should be handled somewhere else? And we ought to look at that.
Well, that was for the wrestling.
Right.
What did I say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as I've told the commissioners on a number of occasions, and I'm sure CMAC has also, CMAC will advise the Board of Selectmen who own the property, who will improve the property as they wish and decide. And it's, obviously, you guys are tenants and should think that way, so your office furniture and all that good stuff you pay for, but you want to improve the building, improve your space, then it would have to go through the processes in place. You talk to Kyle Warnick, who would then develop the plans with our architects, so forth, so on. But we've had this discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the questions? Are you still confused, Robin?
I am extremely
Okay,
confused, but
good,
I'll figure
excellent.
it out. It's a pretty sad comment, if I look at numbers all day, I should be able to figure this out.
Well, I think because it doesn't factor in timing differences, that.
Right.
If we report, I mean, we could look at reporting with additional columns to show timing differences, but that's not.
I seem to be the only one who's confused about this, so don't do anything special for me, I'll figure out how to read it.
Yeah.
And we will tweak this.
Okay,
So the apparency of the 51,000 will be in one column, perhaps some accrual issues for expenses for last year will be in another, things of that
it
nature.
would be extremely
We'll
helpful to
we'll
me.
expand on it. Okay, good. Now, Carol, do you have any other questions you have?
No, I'm set with this.
Okay,
Yeah,
good, thank you.
I understand that, thank you.
Now, if Mr. McTavish was here, would have probably a different line of questioning, because in the past, quite honestly, the revolving fund, let me take a step back. Over the past year, we've all discovered that the Mass General laws dictate that the Board of Selectmen do things differently than how we've done in the past. I.e., now we have to approve the revolving fund, including the estimate of what's gonna happen in the next fiscal year. So that's all changed. So we're working together to figure out how to do it correctly without getting in the way of you guys operating programs. Absolutely, we don't want to get involved in that. But we do have to keep the Massachusetts General laws and the townspeople who have their eyes on us and how we apply rulings to those. So bear with us as we take these somewhat of baby steps. Maybe that's not the right term, but it's the first steps in trying to get everyone on the same page. No, okay, so that being said, that we wanted to actually ask about the capital budget for fiscal 15, and if there were any sort of uses of the revolver for that. And we know in the past it has, and we want to make sure that that's not going to happen. I know there's an existing wish list for Park and Rec that has not been voted on, and hopefully you guys will deal with that in your next meeting, and then supply the Board of Selectmen with that, supply the Capital Budget Committee with that, and that'll get in the system. But I think we might be inclined not to vote on this until we get the capital budget voted list. Is that, am I thinking correctly there?
Well, I think we've always had conversations, and it certainly happened last year when Rob and I were both on the Capital Budget Committee, and it's happened for years before as well, as to, you know, there's an art versus the science of what's the capital budget request to be paid for by the taxpayers, and what's a revolving fund expense to be paid from the revenue that Park and Rec generates. And there's no right answer, there's no right and wrong, it's a more of a philosophical type thing. And it's been a little frustrating for the Capital Budget Committee in the past because we haven't seen both pieces together. And I think with this new procedure, it actually gives us the opportunity to look at it as a whole and understand the distinctions better concurrently with time. So to the extent that we can hold off with doing the revolving fund until the capital budget is done, then that serves the purpose that we've been going through the capital budget as well, right?
I just had this idea, maybe good, may not be good, but perhaps as part of the capital budget request, Park and Rec could also include items that are so-called capital that are going to come out, be paid for from the revolving fund. So it wouldn't have a dollar impact on the town, but at least from a capital budget perspective, that committee would be able to see everything. So for example, when you do go to repair the tennis courts or repave them, just put that as a line item on your capital budget sheet, but the capital budget doesn't have to vote on funding for that.
Well, that's a good point. Park and Rec did work with Capital a couple of years ago
Right.
in a collaborative effort to determine, to basically sink so much money a year.
Right.
Every 5 years it has to be
Right.
inspected and approved. So to that extent, there has been a good collaborative effort on that particular item. And can you talk big picture? And it's my impression that Park and Rec basically getting away from the idea of spending monies on maybe tractors. Maybe, I should say that maybe it's the only thing left that you want to really have a capital item is tennis court repair, and you really want to start spending more money on programs.
That's right.
That's the impression I'm getting from sitting in your meetings.
Yes.
Does
So,
that make sense?
yes. So you can confirm that? My impression is correct?
Yes, I mean, the way we look at it is that the recreation side is the one really that generates the revenue. And that revenue should cover the expenses of those programs.
Right.
The funding, like we're talking about tonight, of proposed additional programs to expand the offerings of the town on the recreation side. The park side is one big capital item, and we need to look at it as if we need a tractor, or we need wells, or, the one exception tonight we asked for is a filter for irrigation in the shed, but the two exceptions. But those would be things that, if we didn't have the money for that, we would come to you and ask for, an emergency request to fund that. So we're doing it because we have the money, but that's not the practice we want to follow going forward. We want the programs to be the ones that get funded out of any surplus. or any deficit, which is a timing issue year to year, and really look to the capital budget process for maintaining and replacing any equipment for the parks.
Yeah, good, thank you for explaining that. The transparency has increased tremendously over the last couple of years, and I thank you for that. As Carol sort of noted, there were issues in the past, some of the revolving monies used for capital items and, you know, some wishy-washy things going forward. And we're trying to avoid that at all costs.
We're right there with you trying to avoid that.
Good, thank you.
You know what, Chris, I would expand what you just said, because when I look at, for instance, field maintenance, you know, which is a profit generator, it appears.
Well, field maintenance is the one item that's a bit of a hybrid, because that's money that we get from programs, athletic programs in particular, to put toward things like lining the fields and some of the other.
Or irrigation filters and the shed that's used to, right, so, right.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a little bit more of a capital item though, but the field maintenance is really the upkeep of the sports programs, right? So if you picture Chickering Field as just a plain field, it's got one level of cost to mow it and take care of it. We add cost to that by putting in a baseball diamond that has to be raked and lined and so forth. Those additional costs are what are in this field maintenance, so it's the incremental cost of running a sports program on a piece of parkland.
Thank you.
So if I'm reading the schedule correctly, there's about $54,000 left in that line item for field maintenance.
Mhm.
So again, that would just be the timing of when you do the actual thing.
Yeah, and it's timing, there's probably a couple things you do every year, a couple things you do every couple of years.
Okay,
And so I don't know exactly from looking at this, which ones are which, but there is an annual cost that we want to make sure we cover.
right.
And that comes from the sports team, so they pay for it essentially here. So we want to make sure we return that value to them. And then some of them are things that maybe do every couple of years. So it's a good question, but it is all, we're getting towards transparency. I think this is one of the steps. We should really have a better understanding of what's what in that is a large line item, and make sure that we're comfortable with how we're managing it.
Well, we're all on the same page. I'm just learning how to read the schedule.
So you're looking at it.
Okay, good. One of the other things I want to briefly talk about is the Carroll House, which is obviously an institution down there beside the Carroll baseball field, is an issue to the extent the Dover Historical doesn't want the baseball field and park and rec and the players and everything else to encroach on a certain area. So to that extent, we've tried to get historical and park and rec together to sign a memorandum of understanding around the Fisher Barn and the Carroll House, whereby park and rec could never encroach in that area. Elijah Lee is here as president of historical this evening. Hello, Elijah. So we're working to that end, and we do have a plan that was created in, I believe, 2002, Dave?
2001.
2001, thank you, for the purpose of the installation of the Fisher Barn there. So thankfully, there's an agreed upon general area that we can include in the memorandum of understanding, and hopefully town council will get that to us, and at that point, I'll forward that. Elijah, you've seen a draft. I know you had a couple of changes to it. I forwarded a draft to Park and Rec. So hopefully we'll get that done. But until such time as the two parties can agree, I'm reluctant to do anything about dugouts. I want everybody to play good, play nice. And I think this agreement will go a long way. You probably won't be happy. You probably, I think Park and Rec really doesn't do anything to you guys. There's no effect. Historical obviously would probably like to see that house protected in a little bigger area, and I understand that. But our whole goal is to get the two groups, basically abutters, to work together going forward. So until such time as the memorandum of understanding is executed, and I hope it is, by Park and Rec, by Historical, and the Board of Selectmen, that will probably hold off on the dugout conversation, including the acceptance of any gifts. That's my feeling on that. Carol and Robin?
No, I agree.
I agree. I think that memorandum of understanding just goes a long way in letting each of the parties and making sure everybody understands their responsibilities with respect to that piece of land.
Yeah.
That being said, I know you sit in the Park and Rec meeting, so you obviously know a little more, but I've heard about the dugouts. I don't know what that means. Could you just give a brief while you're here?
Sure. A gift request or proposal was made to Park and Rec to build dugouts at the Carroll baseball field. And this is probably a couple of years ago now. And so we considered it, and then we as a commission, accepted it as an idea. We'd love to improve our baseball field. And in the process, working with the Historical Commission, it became clear that there was going to be some disagreement about whether or not dugouts should go right there. And I think it's probably fair to say it's a buffer issue, and it's also a line of sight issue that they're concerned, that the Historical Commission is concerned about, because you're now going to, instead of looking at a steel chain link fence in the backyard, you're going to look at a dugout. And
So these are
that's-
above ground,
Yes.
one for each team?
Yeah, a dugout might be a misnomer. I think it's a structure that's going to sit on each side of the baseball field.
With a cover.
Yes.
Yeah, it's effectively a shed, a nice-looking shed.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say it changes the line of sight from their property.
I see.
No, it originally came about as a family of a young boy who passed a few years ago, I don't know the details of it, donated the monies for these to be built. So that's how it all started, quite honestly.
So
those
their
monies
monies,
are a gift.
so there are already monies in a gift fund somewhere for
Yes.
this?
And these are additional.
Okay. And you're still accepting funds?
We haven't accepted it.
Oh, I mean,
Right.
there's still people that are
So the
anxious.
original,
Intending to give a gift,
yeah,
yes.
so I think it's maybe 13, 14, 15,000 sitting existing funds. And I just saw this evening, there was an additional gift that we have not accepted yet,
I see.
which will bring it up to about 18,000.
So are there plans and sketches and?
I think there was a preliminary plan submitted. I'm not sure what the status is in terms of architectural approval or any of that.
I think it was a couple of years ago, and from my understanding, some things have changed in that time, so I think there has to be an updated plan.
Right.
To appease the new codes or new building.
Yes,
Wow.
I haven't seen any plans. Obviously, the Park and Rec Commission haven't voted on any plans at their meetings or anything in the last 2 years that I know of.
Okay.
Yes, Elijah.
Certain butters would probably like to see them too.
Absolutely. And my whole goal is to, a very transparent process, have you guys included in maybe design or color, so it's not as intrusive as you guys would think.
Understood, thank you.
Okay.
So the cost for these plans, would that come out of your operating budget or out of this revolving fund?
Well, to my understanding, all the costs are built into the gift.
Okay.
And we haven't been
Okay.
approached to spend
Okay.
any money towards this
Okay.
project at this point.
So assuming that over the next couple of months, the MOU gets signed between the Dover Historical Society and Park and Rec and the Selectmen, are the dugouts something that you would be doing in the next 6 to 12 months, or are we looking out, or are you gonna wait to? who
Well, I
knows?
think the plan would be to begin the construction as soon as the funds are made available. So that if it happened as early as this winter, we would start in the spring or over the summer, some reasonably short timeline.
So do you have some estimate about the funds that are gonna be necessary?
They're giving us the cost as part of they're matching the gift to the cost as far as I understand.
I see,
So,
okay.
and I don't know that that's dollar for dollar. I don't want to speak for, like, if there are changes that somehow double the cost because of zoning or something, I can't say that
I
they've
see.
provided that funding. But it's not Park and Rec's intention to provide any funding toward
Got
the
it.
project.
So as I see the process, Once the memorandum of understanding is agreed upon, Park and Rec will then initiate perhaps plans and speaking with the town, different inspectors and so forth, building inspectors, so forth. We'll come up with some plans, we'll distribute them to historical, we'll look at them, obviously, probably planning board, site plan review, if there's issues, I don't know, maybe.
Not sure, yeah, could be.
So the first step will be the agreement, and everyone satisfied with where they are in life, so to speak. Is that how you understand it, Elijah?
Yeah, the issue that I would be attentive to, I think, would be the citing of them subject to the MOU. In other words,
Absolutely.
your line is wherever it is, and they're on the right side of it, or they're on the other side of it.
Well, the whole purpose of MOU will have specific
It's surveyed plan.
surveyed
It's a
plans.
surveyed plan.
Right,
So
this is being the 2001 plan.
Yes,
The board has seen the plan, so certainly it's an issue that we are discussing, and right now we're waiting for you guys to come back with the next generation MOU.
correct.
I am not prepared to speak for the board right now, but it's certainly something that is being talked about and thought about.
Good. Well, I just wanted you to be aware, the board to be aware, you'll be part of the process moving forward.
Thank you.
It's only fair. Okay, any other questions on that?
if I may, Mr. Chairman, just a point
Yes,
of
please.
clarification. Is it expected that money will have to be spent to prepare these plans?
It is not our expectation that Park and Rec is going to spend that money. If that is the case, that's something we're going to have to address, because our understanding was we were accepting a gift and they're going to build dugouts, not that there was going to be a big cost on Park and Rec's part.
Because we've had communication which leaves it unclear as to whether it's expected that gifts monies would be used to prepare plans, but for that to happen, given the knowledge now of the law, the selectmen would have to authorize that before anybody could be commissioned to do that work.
Right.
Absolutely.
I made it very clear, Mr. Baldwin, we established last week that nothing could happen, plans or otherwise, including the source of monies, until such time as Board of Selectmen approve it. Right.
And if it all gets approved, you say they, is that, who's going to be building these? Is this going to be part of the public procurement process? Or,
My understanding is it would be an outside contractor hired by essentially either the selectmen or us on your,
So then I'm gonna
on your.
so the public procurement process?
Okay. Good. Okay. I think that's it for Park and Rec. Do you have any other questions or anything?
way behind schedule.
I'm way behind schedule, and Rick's not happy with me. Red Sox
We
8:07.
do have an end time tonight.
Okay, do you have any other questions of us? I hope we're very clear on what is going to happen and what should happen. And then you guys meet, I think, November 4th, and you'll look at capital and so forth, so on.
We'll come back to the capital to be approved along with the.
Yes, that's the intent, yes. Okay, good. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, this is really helpful.
Feel free to leave or stay as you, it's up to you.
Okay, thanks.
You all. Okay, as we move along, I have a prepared statement discussing the May 2013 town meeting special warrant articles 11, 12, and 18. So bear with me as I read the statement. At the May 6, 2013 town meeting, 3 special warrant articles regarding bylaw changes were passed, and by state statute are then automatically forwarded to the Commonwealth's Attorney General for review before becoming local law. They were, Article 11, which was submitted by the Planning Board, was a petition to add an associate member to serve on the Planning Board. This associate member position would serve to help in the educational process if they were to seek election to the board, and additionally would vote in an emergency situation, if a proper quorum was not met. The next was Article 12, which was submitted by a citizen's petition, It was a petition to supersede the Massachusetts general laws regarding the local authority of the Board of Selectmen and the Park and Recreation Commission by requiring town meeting approval specifically for projects on town-owned land in the custody of the Park and Rec Commission when the total project development cost is $150,000 or more, but less than 50% of such total project development cost has been or will be subject to the appropriation by the town. Additionally, an amendment to the main motion was passed, which would require the sponsor of a project to make certain reports to the town clerk for donations greater than $5,000 of value in support of the project, including future pledges. The last was Article 18, which was submitted by the Board of Selectmen. It was petitioned to temporarily place a moratorium on the medical marijuana treatment centers. In 2012, the voters of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts approved the law authorizing up to 35 such facilities. Unfortunately, as of the town meeting date, the Commonwealth had not provided rules and regulations so that communities could adopt legal zoning bylaws if they had wished to not permit this use, hence the moratorium. Now, the Attorney General has opined on the 3 warrant articles, and they are as follows. Article 11 and 18, which is the Planning Board and the medical marijuana, were approved on a September 19th, 2013, and presently are idle, waiting for the mandatory 90-day appeal process to expire. Excuse me. In a letter dated October 8th, 2013, regarding Article 12, the Attorney General's office issued a split decision. It disapproved and recommended bylaw change Chapter 5-12.1C and D, requiring town meeting approval of projects described above, and upheld the Massachusetts general laws specifically as they relate to the authorities of the Board of Selectmen and the Park and Recreation Commission. And they have, without the need of explicit vote at a town meeting, specifically citing Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, 44.5, I believe that is, and I'll correct that, Section 2 and 5, Chapter 53A, in the town's bylaws, Article 12, Section 4-18. It is very important to remember that even though the rulings allow the Board of Selectmen to act independent of town meeting, the Board of Selectmen have pledged that they would seek town meeting approval on such a project as defined in the main motion. The Attorney General's office did approve a portion of the petition, Chapter 5-12.1B, whereby a project as defined in the main motion would be subject to the Board of Selectmen's review of all plans, budgets, etc., and would provide such information to the public. Again, the Board of Selectmen has taken a very aggressive stance and inserted our position that projects as defined in that main motion are subject to the rules and regulations that exist in Dover, regardless of the funding source. As an example, the Board of Selectmen submitted a non-binding ballot question on the May 2013 town election, asking the town if there was a need for a project as defined in the main motion in a collaborative effort, sought and received the Park and Recreation Commission's vow to abide by the results of the vote. Lastly, the Attorney General's office approved the amendment to the main motion regarding publicly identifying donations greater than $5,000, but noted that it may implicate the public records laws and the privacy rights of those listed. The Attorney General's office strongly urged the town to consult with town council regarding this issue. We shall, and their opinion will be forthcoming. As stated above, the ruling from the Attorney General's office are subject to the 90-day appeal process. Thank you. That's the end of the statement. Now, let us go on to the next agenda item, which is a request by the council agent to accept expend gift funds monies for the ongoing fiscal 2014 activities. And who do we have the honor of speaking to this? Mr. Ramsey, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, the discovery that gifts and grants had to be approved by the Board of Selectmen is a relatively recent revelation here in Dover. there are ongoing programs, not only in the Park and Rec area, but in the Council on Aging, that have been going on for years, and in an effort to simplify compliance with the relevant statute, we have requested that the board give a blanket authorization for these ongoing programs listed in the memo, namely the exercise fitness program, the yoga program, Qigong, is that right? Qigong, the JFK transportation service, and the monthly luncheons that have been going on for pretty much as long as I've been here. The amounts listed in the memo are approximate, but rather than have to approve every donation, every expenditure, give a blanket authorization for those ongoing programs.
Okay?
So this letter basically supersedes the backup detail from October 11th?
Yes.
Good. Okay, I see no need to get in the way of reoccurring programs, but I would like us to think about the gift fund versus having them a revolving fund, and whether we're gonna put that at the town meeting next year or not. I don't know if it'll be ready, but we should really think hard and long about that.
I fully support that, and I think we should make ourselves ready.
Okay, good. Okay, that being said, then I will make the motion to expend gift fund monies for the ongoing fiscal 2014 activities as listed in this memorandum dated October 24th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good, thank you.
Should we amend that to say estimated,
Approximate?
approximated? Or is it not
Yes.
necessary?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, thank you. Okay, next agenda item are appointments, and I think, Dave, you're the only one with appointments this evening. So please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 2, I was informed by the town clerk, or reminded that the state law requires there to be 3 registrars on the Board of Registrars in addition to the town clerk. So Mr. Clough is recommending the reappointment of Jack Walsh as a registrar.
That's interesting. Okay, so it was 3, because I remember last year, for the sake of parity, we were going to go with the 3. Okay, so Jack is back.
That rhymes.
Jack, thank you.
That is song?
It could be.
You gonna sing it for us,
Maureen would know
Karen?
that.
No, the only person that allows me to sing is my granddaughter.
Okay, so Jack, Board of Registrars. Okay, I'll make the motion to accept John Walsh to a 3-year term on the Board of Registrars.
Second.
Does he have a party? Does he have-
Democrat.
I don't know the answer to that, Mrs. Listman.
The last time it was noted he was a Democrat.
Okay.
So can we accept the appointment without knowing that?
Yeah, that's just a side note.
Okay.
It's just a no.
Okay, did we vote on that, Greer?
No, we just seconded it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Good thing somebody's paying attention.
Yes, that's why I asked Greer. Okay.
And on page 5,
Oh, more.
the Emergency Management Director, Jack London, has indicated willingness to step up and serve again for another 3-year term.
I move we accept Jack London for a 3-year term as Emergency Management Director.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, thank you.
On page 7, the Building Inspector, the Inspector of Wiring, and the Deputy Inspector of Wiring are all willing to re-up.
Where was that? On page 7?
Page 7 at the top.
I need a long-range plan. Oh, okay, I'm 6. Okay, so, say that again, please, Dave?
The Inspector of Buildings and Zoning Enforcement Officer, the Inspector of Wiring, and the Deputy Inspector of Wiring are all willing to re-up for 1-year terms.
Okay, so specifically, I'll make the motion for Walter Avalon as the Inspector of Building and Zoning Enforcement Officials for 1 year, Kevin Malloy as the Inspector of Wiring for 1 year, and James Naughton as the Deputy Inspector of Wiring for 1 year. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Jumping ahead to page 12. Town Council, Anderson and Krieger, is willing to re-up for another year.
Okay.
Have we discussed our issues with them?
We certainly have.
And do we have an acceptance that there is an issue and they will resolve it?
It's in the process of being resolved as we speak.
Excuse me, I forget the process of, even though we're appointing them as town council, do we negotiate a billable pricing, or what do we do there?
Typically, we do not. The price has not been adjusted in a number of years now.
Okay, so you're anticipating, or have been told it won't adjust upward next year?
I'm anticipating it
Or
will not.
downward? We'll accept downward.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good.
I move we accept Anderson and Krieger for one-year appointment.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
And on that same page, Mr. Chairman, Jerry Lane has indicated a willingness to re-up as a treasurer collector.
Okay, for a one-year term. I'll make the motion to accept Jerry Lane as the treasurer collector for one-year term.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
And last but not least, on the following page 13, Jeff Carter has indicated a willingness to re-up as the deputy water operator.
I'll make the motion for Jeff Carter, deputy water operator for a three-year term.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Got it, Dave?
That's it, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Selectmen's capital budget request for the fiscal year 2015. And this is an ongoing discussion. And I believe, let me just, I don't have it. Okay. Is anything new in these requests, Dave?
I think, yes.
Okay, why don't you go through that, whatever.
I'm looking for the bathrooms at the Carroll Community Center.
Those are
Yeah.
6 and 6A.
Thank you. And we have, after conversations at a CMAC meeting, where they have urged that these be moved from an out year into closer in, we are currently proposing to have 2 bathroom renovations, the first floor included in fiscal 15, and then 2 in fiscal 16, with prices still being worked on.
Okay. When do you think the prices will come in?
Not for a while. The architect's first priority is the fire bay doors, but he's been spoken to about getting us a proposal for what it would take to do that work.
So before you submit this then to the cabinet budget committee, because I think the discussion was maybe splitting it 15 and 16, could you put a TBD under column 2015 as well?
I believe there is.
It is, Carol.
No, it's under 2016, do I not have the?
6 and 6A,
Are you looking?
they're both
Revised
TBDs.
1024?
Yeah.
There's
Right here.
number 6 and 6A.
Oh, I see how, I'm sorry. Got
Okay.
it, got it,
Yeah.
got it, I see.
Now, the other price that was gonna be updated, and I know from a visit to the police station that the architect was there on Friday, so do we have updated pricing for that?
For the overhead doors,
No, at the police station for the reconfiguration.
refreshing the numbers,
Yeah.
not yet.
So I met with, I know you were there last week for a review, and I realized I needed a refresher as well. So I met with the chief this afternoon and went over it again, and some of it came back to me, some of it was new. And, you know, what I suggested to him was to make sure that we follow the same process I would expect that we would follow for building a new building, which is that you design it, you then would go through a variation of a lean process, which he didn't, which I told him to check with
The architect.
the architect to explain, but do that, and then on top of that, go through a value engineering process to make sure that the cost and the plans represent the most diligent approach to keeping the cost down. And he was going to talk to Don Mills about both of that.
Okay.
It will certainly be interesting to see what how close the price is to this placeholder.
Right.
You know,
Well-
from my visit, the one thing that was really apparent to me, and that I did forget, was that the current configuration, not only is it not optimal, but it also on a daily basis violates a bunch of HIPAA regulations.
You speak to the two cells?
Yeah, so, no, the screens, when you walk in, if the dispatcher is on the phone,
Oh, okay, thank you.
the screens come up with some
Right,
private
privacy issues.
information,
Thank you,
right?
thank you.
And with Massachusetts' new stringent privacy laws, it, you know, it really kind of brings to light the necessity of having that space
Yeah,
reconfigured
there's just no privacy there at all.
at all.
At all.
It's also very noisy.
Yeah. So we've got a situation for the capital budget where we don't have to find a firm number yet for number 4.
Right.
According to the discussion we had at our September 30th meeting, item number 5, the library roof, we're waiting for a consultant to see if we could move that out.
Right.
So we're still waiting for that. We don't have prices for 6 or 6A. We don't have the park and rec space on here, which may or may not. So we need to get that on here also with the TBD, just as a placeholder.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest that until and unless we hear from the director, we don't do anything.
Okay, so that has not happened.
I mean, we got a piece of paper, but we haven't had any communication.
So as a result of the CMAC meeting, there hasn't been any substantive,
No.
We dropped the paper off,
you dropped a paper off?
the one that Jim has, I believe.
Do we have that?
The wish list? Yeah. Somewhere here. It was $10,000 total.
Oh,
It was minimal.
okay.
Do we have any idea of the cost to reconfigure the bathrooms?
None.
Have you been down there? They're big rooms, and they have to be gutted.
Yeah, I know, because they're still elementary school bathrooms.
And they're too big, so we really have to explore how do we use some of that space. Do we take some of the space and use it as storage? I mean, there's no shower or anything, it's not that you're gonna have a humidity problem or anything, so do we use it as, what else do we do with that square footage?
Do we need to have a handicap bathroom in there?
Well, it is
We do need-
handicapped.
It's handicapped accessible now, it would have to
Yeah.
continue to be.
Right, okay.
So we've asked for a proposal to do that work.
Okay, so I should go do a little field trip myself, just to.
It'll
I don't think
be
I'm
30
gonna
seconds
explore.
Yeah,
before you
you're not
decide.
gonna wanna spend much time in
Right.
there.
Oh, I was just curious if we had
Yeah.
any idea of what the cost might be.
No, we made them handicapped accessible a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, my other thought, and, so we have a lot of moving parts that have to be determined very quickly.
Right.
Is some of this impossible to do prior to the capital budget's schedule?
We're moving as quickly as we can.
I know,
So
but
I
like, I
will
don't
have to
want,
present this to the capital budget
Right.
committee as this is a work in process.
Okay.
When are you making your presentation?
November 4th or whatever.
Is
We
there-
have plenty of time, because, I mean, you know, in past, there've been a couple of departments that we don't do yet till January and February. In fact, we've got those early. So we may find ourselves in the unique position of the selectmen's budget actually being one of the later ones to get approved, which is not normal, but with these types of big ticket items, I understand the need to get the pricing done. But we didn't spend a lot of time on, I don't think we spent a lot of time on some of the out years, and to the extent that the capital budget does track that, two things come to mind. On articles, on numbers 9 and 10, just from an economy of scale standpoint, it just seems to me that if we've got painters in a building, it's always cheaper to do the whole thing than to split it up between years. I don't know, but
I thought we had done one of the bays last year.
We actually decided not to do it.
Okay.
Because we're having trouble being successful with the paint application on the floor. So we decided we were gonna hold off and roll it into the repair as well, and then do the whole thing. It makes eminent sense if painting of the floor and the ceiling are the same type of trade. They may be different based on the type of application for the
Oh,
floor.
I see, one is just normal painting, other one's, okay.
Okay.
But we should keep that in mind, and I,
Certainly.
you know. And then, of course, on number 14,
Yeah, I mean,
again, depending on the renovation of the,
Mhm.
and I know that's not an area that's being renovated, but again, if we're carpeting,
Mhm.
so I would specifically think about that as we get a price for the renovation, and whether we should roll that in.
that's a good point. I did talk about, 2 weeks ago, about the Whiting Road, the painting the exterior, and I believe there's a comment, perhaps we can do that out of normal maintenance.
I think you're correct.
Yeah, you had made that comment, Mr. Chairman, but we don't generally have that kind of money extra in our maintenance budget, $15,000.
Well, that building's gonna fall down, if you're gonna wait 5 years to paint it.
Well, we're slapping paint on a preventive basis. We can do that, but painting the entire exterior with the plug number 15,000, we can't afford to do
I
that.
can appreciate that.
Are all sides of the, I haven't looked at the building the last couple of months. I tend to see the front when I'm dropping off my car
Right.
at Dover Automotive, and that, to me, can be done by
Maintenance.
maintenance,
I was on. I'm
both
on that same
manpower
question,
and
yeah.
budget. I mean,
Yes,
that's a
we're
little bit of
intending to
strict-
do
right,
the ad
right,
hoc stuff.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And were the other sides in bad shape, or?
I don't think so.
I didn't think so.
Right, so that's more than 15 is really the
This
whole
is the
building,
whole
right?
thing, yeah.
So
Prep
we
paint.
can handle the front piece
Yes.
through the
Good.
maintenance.
Good, I stand corrected on that. Good, thank you. So that's okay, keeping that out there then. Okay, and the one, obviously, we didn't talk about was to modify the 2 overhead doors at the fire station. We'll wait for Chief Hughes to come in to talk to us about that, and hopefully he'll do that in the next meeting.
Yes.
And by then, hopefully we'll have a price that we can talk about also. Good. Anything else on the capital budget, fiscal?
No, I think we should probably approve it with all the contingencies and open items, and I'll just explain that, so at least we can start getting something in the spreadsheet to see what the year starts to look like.
Right.
So our approval of this is just our approval, so that we can have a discussion with Captain.
Yeah.
Okay, because if some of these line items are much larger, we may have to rethink our.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I don't think we've approved them yet.
You haven't voted them yet.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Okay, so we're just.
I would never-
approving-
I
Okay.
We're just
that's what I was
agreeing to submit
confused.
this to
Okay,
capital
all right.
budget to-
Right.
versus approving.
Okay. Good. We done with the capital budget for now then? Thank you. Let's go on to the next agenda item, which is on my agenda, vote on early closing the day before Thanksgiving. And Greer, you usually speak to these items.
Yes, I do. Every year, in recent memory, the board has kindly agreed to allow the employees to go home at 2 PM the day before Thanksgiving to allow them a jump start on getting their dinners together and the families together and everything in readiness for Thursday. And we are asking if the board will approve that again this year.
For what time?
2 PM.
2 p.m.
Well, it's very important to brine a turkey for 24 hours, so that alone.
You know, I think it's
We're all
the very least,
brining.
we can do. Very least we can do for the hardworking employees of the town. Very least we can do. So I would be inclined to go, go with this.
Second that.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Robin?
I concur. Just a thought, if we've done it the last couple of years, can we just make it official, or does it have to come to us?
It comes each year, yes, it's.
I like to have
It's
Greer
discretion,
ask.
yeah. And
Please,
it's an
everybody.
opportunity for the selectmen to do
something
something
nice
for
for
the
us.
employees. Yeah, no, that, it's a real feel-good thing, so.
Okay.
yeah.
So-
Thank you,
I don't want to take that away.
that's right.
I'll make the motion to have an early closing of 2 p.m. the day before Thanksgiving, 2013.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you.
I can't believe it's almost Thanksgiving.
Well, yes. Next agenda item is in other business, and we have the Boston MPO election, and that is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Dave, do you speak to this, or who wants?
Generally, Mrs. Pugat speaks.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
I do.
great, please.
Every year, if there are vacancies on the Metropolitan Planning Organization board, they are put out to the towns to vote on candidates who have stepped forward. This year, there are 2 vacancies, 2 open municipal seats on the board. One is for the sub-region, let me see, Metro West sub-region, and one is for the inner core region. There is 1 candidate for each of these seats. They're running unopposed. One is from the town of Framingham, and one is from the city of Somerville. And MPO is asking that the chief elected officials vote on those 2 seats. So we are asking you to have a look at the statements for City of Somerville, Chief Elected Official Joseph Curtatone, and for the Town of Framingham, Chief Elected Official Dennis Giambetti. And vote on that, please.
Yeah, I applaud these 2 gentlemen for coming forward to sit on the board. I do not know either one. And I remember, Carol, you had a comment about this last year.
I did I?
Yes.
What did I say? Would have been something like, the MPO was the organization that did the feasibility study on the rail trail conversion,
No.
which is, no, it wasn't that. What did the minutes show?
No, it's about electing officials we don't know
Oh,
to these type of organizations. And I remember the time you weren't comfortable with it. But have you changed your thought process?
oh, I guess philosophically I'm not, but so many jobs or so many positions are also uncontested, so.
Yeah.
I guess it shouldn't be as much of a difference whether it's uncontested or you don't know, either way. The
Right,
person is the
right.
person, right?
Okay.
So. Gee, what a memory you have.
Well, now and then, it's a lucid moment.
A moment of brilliance.
Brilliant, a moment of brilliance, thank you very much. Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to elect these gentlemen. Who would like to make that motion, since I do not know these gentlemen?
I will make,
Yeah, I know, but.
oh, allow me.
Pronounce their last names.
I would like to move that we appoint Mr. Dennis Giambetti from the town of Framingham to the Metro West seat, and Mr. Joseph Curtatone from Somerville to the inner core seat.
I will second that.
All in favor? Aye, thank you.
This is for
Thank you.
Jim. Thank you.
Mr. Dolly?
Want me to print my name, or you guys type that in?
We'll fill it in the rest, thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item, which will be officially 47 minutes before the first pitch of Game 2. 37.
More importantly, I would like to see James Taylor sing the national anthem. so.
Oh, I slowed down. Okay, we have 3 special licenses this evening. All have been approved by the police chief in advance. Thank you, chief. The first one is November 1st at the Boston College Center. The second is November 12th, also at the Boston College Connors Center. And the third at Elm Bank is December 5th, 2013. And I'll make the motion to accept the 3 special licenses as described.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye, thank you.
I forgot to say what they were for. The third one at Elm Bank is the Festival of Trees.
Thank you for correcting me.
There you go.
didn't say that.
I know.
I was too busy looking at what they were for.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, next agenda item is to approve the September 30th, 2013 meeting minutes. This particular meeting, we appointed Brian Collins as our new police officer. Personnel Board Chair Mary Kerrigan came in and talked about an increase for fiscal year 2015. Council agent came in, made a nice presentation. And we continue on appointments and capital budget requests.
And we extended the term management advisory.
That's true. These were somewhat difficult minutes, and so thank you for,
I felt a little inadequate because I was the third one to see them and all the edits that been made. And I couldn't add my color.
you'll get your chance. Okay, good. Any questions about the meeting minutes of September 30th? Then I'll make the motion to accept the meeting minutes of September 30th, 2013.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Favorite part of the meeting?
Yes, citizens' comments is our next agenda item.
Anyone?
Pressure's on, Bob.
If none, would you like, Carol, you want to say anything?
Well, since Bob is here, I would just like to thank him again, this time very publicly, for accepting the role of Chair of the Capital Budget Committee.
Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Robin, do you have any comments?
I do not.
Good. Well, I'll entertain.
Oh, I do.
Oh, okay.
Let's go Red Sox.
Go Red Sox, very appropriate. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With that, good night and thank you very much.